plan, that code item? You followed that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, good morning. Welcome in another Friday safety focus of the week, April 21st. This week's code of conduct is to drive safely, defensively, and courteously. It's definitely one of our most important, as it's the highest exposure that we have with really issues with the public. We put a lot of miles on, and we do have a lot of potential for it's actually the leading one cause of a fatality in construction is getting in a vehicle accident to and from
Wow.
work or to and from jobs. It's the leading cause of death. So remember that following distances, make sure we're doing our pre-trips. Let's really focus on driving, put that phone down, focusing on the task at hand, and that is driving. So we did have a minor back strain from lifting that caused our first aid count to drop to 3 days. However, with quick response, we're able to keep that from actually recordable. So good job on reporting quickly. So we're up to 306 days, which is kind of a milestone. We've never really been over 300 all that much. So let's really focus in, zero in. Starts with a good JHA to start your day. Communicate those hazards, mitigate those with best practices that we talk about each and every Friday. If there's any questions on your job site regarding any other hazards that you want help with, please contact Health and Safety. We'll be right out to help problem solve and set up best practices to make sure that we go home safe and sound each and every day. That's what all I have on that. So Ben, I'll kick it over to you if you want to share your screen on this week's topic.
Yep. Okay. See if I can get it to work properly here. Matt, you'll have to tell me if this works.
Got it.
Can you see the equal opportunity?
Yep.
Slide. And I assume if I just click, they'll move, right?
Yep.
I won't do it yet. Okay. Equal opportunity, equal employment opportunity, EEO, is something that we're required by law to talk about at least once a year, annually. And we also talk about it with all new employees. And there's some other requirements. If someone becomes a supervisor, they have to be aware of this program. Let me move to my next slide. How do I get it to move, Matt?
You should be able to also put
hit
the next arrow. Yep.
There we go. Got it. Sorry. So the basic definition of EEO, or equal employment opportunity, it's the idea that everyone should be treated fairly when they're considered for various employment decisions, which includes hiring, promotions, terminations, compensations, etc. This means, for example, that anyone competing for a position at a company should have the same chances of succeeding if they're right for the job. So some further explanation of that is upcoming, but part of our culture is our commitment to fostering, cultivating, and preserving a culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we'll always remember in our culture that our differences, they give us our strength as a company. Our code of conduct also is part of our culture, and our code of conduct and standards are meant to provide a professional atmosphere free from harassment. These two statements are just two little tidbits that are in our handbook that talk about our culture and who we are. And to be an equal opportunity employer is also required. It is required that every employee here practices it, because if one person breaks it, we're out of compliance. A lot of our contracts, the state work that we do, everyone knows that we have to get the poster boards up, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But the reason we have to put something on that poster board related to EEO is the fact that it's required by federal law when they give us funds for our projects, like the Federal Highway Administration, for example, that we follow and adhere to and have an EEO program. So is ECI an equal opportunity employer? Matt? Are we?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yes. From our current handbook, one of our statements in our new handbook that you can refer to, ECI is an equal opportunity employer. We will extend equal opportunity to all individuals without regard to their race, their color, their religion, their sex, their pregnancy or pregnancy-related condition, gender identity, sexual orientation, national origin, citizenship, ancestry, place of birth, disability, age, genetic information, health coverage status, HIV status, military or veteran status, crime victim status, or any other status protected under applicable federal, state, or local laws. So this statement is something that I'm always required to tell us all once a year, and I'm supposed to state all these different things at least once, and it's in your handbook, and it's also on the posters that I'll talk about here in a few minutes. Our policy on equal opportunity reflects our commitment to the principles of fair employment and the elimination of discriminatory practices. And EEO is all about not discriminating. In our new handbook that we just all hopefully received, if you haven't, go up front and get it, or I think Sarah has a stack of them in here. Come in and get them and sign for them. There's a section in there that's related to our employment practices. And this is just part of the table of contents that just shows that we talk about all these things in our handbook, and it's laid out right here in the table of contents. So this is further homework for everyone to read their new handbook and to especially pay attention to these sections. So do we have a written policy? We do. Ken has a link to it on our email, and we do have a written policy. One of the things that's going to happen this year with all of our state work is the civil rights people from the VTrans Civil Rights Department. They're going to come out, as they always do, and they're going to ask a couple of questions. One of them is going to be, do you know what EEO is? Yeah, well, don't say no, say, yeah, try to think of a way that you can explain it to them that they'll be happy with. And as long as you talk about to not discriminate and go see the poster, the stuff that I tell you today is the right answer, anything related to that. The wrong answer is no, I have no idea. I've never been trained. I have no clue. Yeah, we do. We have it. It's up to date. It's available for everyone to review. Ken's got a link to it. There's the first page of it. It's 5 pages long. I've signed it. And some of the stuff, I won't go into it in detail, but I will tell you the highlights that you need to know. And then go back and click the link and read it yourself when you get a chance. Another question you're going to be asked. You will be asked, who is the EEO officer? Ben McKinney. Ben McKinney, who is the EEO officer at ECI?
Incorrect. It is not Ben McKinney. It's Ben Dow.
Very good. I got him. Okay. I am the EEO officer here at ECI, and everyone's required to know that, because if somebody feels that that something inappropriate is happening, just let me know. I'm the EEO officer, and I have the responsibility to administer and promote an active EEO program by ensuring that the company has the right policies and procedures in place, and that this stuff is given to you in a way that you can understand it and that you're able to follow it. I'm responsible for handling all the complaints appropriately according to the policy rules, laws, and regulations. That's kind of the more legal part of it. Our EEO program also involves a couple of other things. One of them is that we are committed to providing reasonable accommodations for employees with disabilities. We have a written reasonable accommodations procedure to handle requests for reasonable accommodations related to the ADA, which is the American Disabilities Act. Those might be things like something special, that a handle or a step on a truck or a ramp. Anyone that has a disability that needs a little bit of extra help, that's considered to be reasonable, and we can have some leeway there. That we're committed to taking care of that for them. The EEO policy and the complaint procedures and the required posters are on bulletin boards. One of them is posted up in health and safety on the wall. Another one is posted at the rear entrance to 98, which when you come in from the mechanic shop, look on the left. There's a big poster up there with all our compliance stuff. And one of the posters you'll see on here is the new one called Know Your Rights. And this is the current poster that explains probably everything that you need to know, including all the stuff I've probably talked about already. It's on I did check this morning, and we do have the updated version of this on the board coming in the back of 98. There's an old one that's no longer used, and that one's called, I think, It's the Law. I think that's one entitled It's the Law, and that one's no good anymore, Matt. This is the current one, and we just found that out. Well, I found it out again here recently when we submitted our poster board. I think for one of the Berry projects, we submitted the poster board, and the civil rights people actually looked at the photo of all the posters, and they noticed that we had the wrong one on there, and it was the outdated one. So if you happen to be going out the door, and if you want to see this poster, take a look at it. It's an 8.5 by 11. It's probably easier to read. I did a screenshot here, and it's a little bit blurry. Other requirements that we need to comply with for EEO. We need to make sure that everyone that works here knows that we have an EEO program and basically what it is. We're required to investigate all complaints related to discrimination, and we got to do it promptly and thoroughly. We have the civil rights people at the state of Vermont, especially when it's related to a state project, and they're very helpful. And we have investigated complaints in the past with good results. We document all the meetings that we have. Matt's going to take attendance today, and since this is one of our annual times that we talk about it, we're going to have that log ready to submit to anybody that wants to see who was trained. And we have to figure out how we can catch people that haven't got this information, Matt, right? If we get new supervisors, we need to make sure that we do review this program with supervisors, and we actually talk about it on onboarding, during onboarding. I believe that's still part of our program, Matt. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then, of course, reviewing it annually. So the key points that I have are that we do have a program. It's related to not discriminating against all those protected classes that are listed on the poster and on our policy. I am the EEO officer, and the information is located on the posters. All the state jobs have a poster board, and you'll see that poster there. I have a copy in my office, usually a hard copy of the program, of the equal opportunity policy, and so does our website, not our website, but the email today. You have a link to it, and I think Matt will update our Foreman Teams channel and put it on there too. I think we might have the old one on there.
Yep.
So
I'll do that today.
Can you help me do that today? Okay.
Yep.
Good. Okay. Anything to add, Ken?
No, that sounds pretty complete.
Yeah. There, you've all been trained.
Yes, we've been trained. Yay. Let me get to the right screen.
I tried to make Ben McKinney the EEO officer, but he didn't do it.
Oh,
There
wait,
we
man.
go. You see my screen?
Yeah, we got it.
We got it.
Good. There we go. I even, in the focus of the week box here, I said by Ben Dow, EEO officer.
Okay.
Okay, there's the quick.
Some of the
bullet
high
points.
points. Yep.
Yep. And the link is at the bottom.
Oh, cool. Thanks. That's good.
There we go. Okay. No new announcements this week. We have new employees though. This is Stephen Downs and Porter Peliquin and John Schruger.
I think he says pronounces it sugar.
Sugar. Okay. And Cameron Bailey. Whoops,
Bailey.
I went past Cameron here a little bit because I scrolled too fast. Cameron Bailey. So good. Welcome everyone. And there'll be a quiz on the EEO policy later, right?
Yeah.
Just remember, Ben Dow is the answer, and yes, I've been trained. So this week, ECI participated in the 2023 Vermont Career Fair at the Champlain Valley Expo Center. And here's their little logo. You see that it is also sponsored by the AGC of Vermont, which we're a member of. And AGC is kind of the driving force behind this. It's mostly about construction careers, but it's a whole lot more. So we had a booth there and also an outdoor presence too. Our sign had the message, ECI is hiring now, as in right now.
That's cool.
Yep. So we have a picture before everything started up. There's Richard and Sarah after everything got put together. We had a double booth. It looked great. Really sharp. Our poster boards and our background and everything makes us look really professional. And let's see here. The first part was mostly young people from the tech centers, and they just inundated us and the whole place. And Richard is here showing this young man how to operate an excavator using our simulation software and hardware. And then I also got another link, obviously, to the, like we always do, to the primary wellness care program. So we got to get back in, if you haven't had your update, your yearly physical, you got to get in and have it updated so that you're compliant with the program. And if you haven't done it, and if you're new, check it out. It's really worth it. And then for this week, we're going to have Ben McKinney talk to us about the chip unloading bridge repairs at the McNeil Generating Station in Burlington. All set, Ben?
Yeah, all set. BCI is contracted with Burlington Electric Department to do 2 separate scopes of work during their annual spring shutdown of the McNeil Generating Station. The chip plant, as it's often called, is a wood-burning power plant located in the Burlington Intervale that generates 50 megawatts of electrical power. That's about what the city of Burlington consumes. I'm sure you guys have seen it and can picture it down there in the swamp with the big smokestack. The plant runs 24 hours a day, all year long, except for a 2-week shutdown each spring. This shutdown is timed in early April to coincide with the mud season, when it's more difficult for loggers to get wood and chips out of the forest. The McNeil plant burns 75 tons of wood chips every hour, or about 630 tons per year. 75% of this is delivered via rail, with the balance being tractor trailers. think that's part of their operating agreement because, where it's located, the tractor trailer traffic is tough on, through Winooski and Riverside. So 3/4 of it comes via rail with a special chip train running back and forth from Swanton 4 to 5 days per week. The plant's located just off the Burlington subdivision of the New England Central Railroad and has its own siding. Within the siding is a long, high bridge. Rail cars are unloaded on the open deck direct fixation bridge, and the chips fall 30 feet or so to the yard below, where they're moved by bucket loader and drawn into the plant and burned by conveyor, which likely turns some kind of a turbine with lots of wires and magnets and generates power. So every year, ECI's track crew performs annual maintenance on the bridge and track. And we've certainly had many other crews working here over the years doing different improvements. I don't remember if it was a water line. I know we had a utility scope there some years ago down digging in the swamp. Aggressive curve geometry from that siding onto this work bridge and direct fixation of the rails right onto the steel stringers for this open deck bridge, creates some maintenance headaches for them, and keeps us busy every spring doing some scope work for them between the bridge work and the track work. This year, our track scope was limited to surfacing, tire replacement, and replacing about 12 broken rail clips with new welded pandrel clips. But our bigger scope this year was some work on the bridge substructure itself. So this big steel bridge is supported by spread footings that sit behind tall MSE retaining walls. So I don't know if you can picture that, but an MSE wall is essentially a precast reinforced earth type system, a thin precast wall using these galvanized steel straps that run far into the backfill to actually reinforce the earth behind them. It's a passive design versus an active design. So when we drill a tie back and we put a jack on it and suck a wall back into the dirt, this is different than that. This is passive. So, it essentially, creates a solid reinforced mass of backfill that can self-support to a degree and ultimately reduce the felt pressure dramatically from what it would be at such heights on a conventional wall. It's a similar theory to using geogrid and, geogrid and ready rock, for instance, for tall walls, using the, L-shaped galvanized baskets and filter fabric. Those are all MSE systems. Over the years, the large quarry-sized loaders with huge buckets, because the chips aren't very heavy, have really done a lot of damage to the front face of these MSE wall panels. And again, they're pretty thin. There's not much there. So these big gouges are certainly a cause for concern. ECI worked with Tech Associates, a railroad bridge engineering firm out of Maine, to scope and design a means of reinforcing the existing northern wing wall and abutment wall. The final design was a 14 to 16 foot tall single phase concrete wall in each location. This 8-inch thick wall had a double matabar and over 500 dowels drilled and epoxied into the existing MSE wall panels. We thought this felt a little excessive, but that's what they wanted. A lot of drilling, a lot of epoxy. ECI also poured reinforcing blocks around existing columns and replaced CMP bollards to help protect the existing steel building structure. So this over the bridge, Ken, if you want to show them the picture, but over the bridge is, a building that's on the low side anyway of the bank. Columns go all the way down to grade and they're in this loader yard. So we formed and poured cast in place concrete around some of these big steel tube columns to protect them as extra work. We picked up quite a bit of extra work while we were down there.
I get that picture right here, you mean?
Yeah, there you go. There, so you can see these columns are actually, so those are the piers. We actually didn't, those are cast in place, so they didn't have us do any work on those in the background. But then you can see these big, if they're HSS 8x8s or 10x10s, they're big, maybe bigger than that even. Yeah, they're definitely not 8x8s. Maybe 14x14. I don't know, they're pretty big. These columns coming down to little piers, and those had gotten some loader damage, and the anchor bolts were kind of rotten. So they directed us to do a bunch of extra work and forming these and putting new CMP bollards in there, which are also filled with concrete to try to keep the loaders honest.
Cool.
Yeah, so our final design is a 14 to 16 foot tall single face wall. Tall single face walls deserve extra caution. The form pressures, unlike any tall wall deserves caution, but unlike a normal wall
Sorry.
that has
Ben,
form
I don't want to
pressure.
be distracting. I want to just kind of, okay, get back. I went too far because it's hard to navigate. So go ahead. I didn't
No
mean
problem.
to interrupt, but I didn't want to have it kind of interrupting you.
Unlike a normal wall where you've got two steel forms on either side with the pressure resolved between them by a conventional tie, you still certainly have areas to be cautious with. But a single face wall it's just the one face, and you're relying 100% on these drop-in anchors into your existing substrate to hold the entire wall. And when you get up to 16 feet, the form pressures at the bottom are really, really high. So it's a tricky wall to build. The guys did a great job. It was a plant shutdown. So we were under the gun, under timeline. They started running trains again the day after we got out of there. So, we finished our work and all the extra work we did while we were down there just in time. Reports from the field are that the form work held like a rock, and besides a few creaks and pops, the pour was uneventful. Just like we like it.
So there's the detail we constructed it to showing the wall, and the existing wall is on the right, new wall is on the left.
Yep. Yeah, we eliminated that keyway. That wasn't necessary. I don't know why they drew that. It's a lot of groundwater down there. It's in a swamp. I guess it kind of makes sense.
Why did it say plan view there?
Yeah, I don't know why. I wonder if the plan view was below it and I just grabbed too much of the snip. Although I don't even think they drew a plan, so it's just an elevation of section. So you can see the guys in the bucket truck there pressure washing the MSC wall. So those are 6 inches thick or so. And I mean, you look at some of that loader damage, there's not a lot left. Dug down to the original footing there. So you can see a pier, kind of a double pier for some of the upper structure. And you can see just the beginning of the dowel drilling. Like I said, they're over 500.
Cool.
There's pour day. You can see we're 14 feet tall on the wing wall, 16 on the, we're calling it the abutment wall. It's not really an abutment, but kind of. There's a pier encasement there up onto the column. One of the bollards we replaced in the background, you can see one, an existing one that remains. You can see our nice shiny plum bollards with our new encasements to protect those building column footings.
They seem kind of small diameter for the height, don't they?
If you look at them next to that ladder, I don't think they're that small. It's just you look at them next to the tube and they look small. I called that tube an 8x8, and then I looked at the ladder. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not an 8x8.
But the height, it's a slenderness thing.
You talking about the CMP or the columns?
The CMP.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think heavily reinforced with no load. I think they're just right. Yep. You got the form truck setting some waste blocks. Obviously, when you bracing is very important on these walls, and curb pins don't work very well in wood chips, so putting the waste blocks on for bracing is important.
Ground down there.
Yeah,
it's like a nice working surface there. Comfortable on the feet.
Right. No smoking.
Yep.
So it's probably kind of hard to picture the way this whole thing goes, but so the train's coming onto this bridge, kind of perpendicular to this back wall where you can see Dave running the pump line. So they're coming onto the bridge, and they're called hopper cars. They're open top hopper cars. So they're unloaded from the bottom. And the chips just fall all the way down, and the loaders come in and scoop them up.
Let it drop. Of course, it's normally partly full, right?
It's more full than, we had to excavate to get down here. So it's normally, yeah, somewhat full of chips. I guess they dropped the whole grade down after we left. But you get down 3 feet and there's still chips. They're just old, wet, dark chips that probably hadn't seen the light of day for a while.
Yeah.
So here's the siding. You can see that aggressive curve geometry we're talking about. And this section of the bridge is actually in the curve. So you can see all the clips there on the steel stringers.
Wow.
You see a curve greaser in the background. I don't know if it's operational.
I wonder why they have a problem.
Right. Yeah. Also kind of funny that, spread footing behind MSC, they've had some pretty good settlement that we've gone and jacked and done some bearing work over the years too. It probably due for some more next year. They've got a certain budget that we try to stay within on the track side every year. This wall deviated from it, but they were able to find the funds.
Drops right through there.
Yep. And obviously working underneath this, I mean, that's why we had to do our work during a plant shutdown. There were a lot of guys in the plant doing work. We had to do our work during a plant shutdown because you can't be building that wall and having big chunks of wood fall on you. I mean, not to mention just working under trains isn't really allowed either. And they are there every day, and it takes a while. You can see grease. I mean, it looks like the grease we used to use, but I assume that's from the curve greaser. Operates on a little cam, and every time a train wheel goes over, it gives it a little pump of grease. Those are the old school style clips.
Yep.
Gone to shoulders with mandrels, so they're maintainable. Have a little bit of give to them.
Yeah, this is an older photo that I had from 2009. Okay, well,
So
thank you, Ben.
I got one piece of information for you guys. I don't know if Burns remembers it. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, one of the jobs that ECI had was unloading the chip trains. And I don't know if any of you guys remember that, but in the middle of the day or whatever, you'd get a call on the ECI radio from Allen to go unload the chip trains. And I remember we used to have to, it was like the fire department. We have to run down there, climb up on that structure band. And then I don't know if they still have them, but they had big vibratory bulk things that we had to clamp on the sides because they would open up the bottom of these dump cars and it wouldn't come out.
Yep.
And so we would have to bang them with hammers and then hitch on these vibratory units and then turn them on and get the chips out. And then it'd take you about an hour, but it was something that we used to do. And it was just a part of our culture back then was don't answer the radio because you don't want to have to go unload chip cars when you're in the middle of putting pipe in.
I didn't.
The
I had
radio.
No idea.
Did you know we used to do that, Ben? It was
No,
crazy.
I had no idea. And yeah, I'd say you guys are doing pretty good to do it in an hour. It seems to take them longer. And yeah, the vibration's very, very loud.
Yep.
It's pretty
Yeah,
kind of
probably.
violent, to be honest.
I think it did take more than an hour, but it was frustrating for us because it was always like, it wasn't a set crew. Oh, wow.
And
I
then
remember.
we don't have any photos of that, unfortunately, in the archive photos.
I don't think so. I
We
might
had
have
this South
yeah.
Winooski Avenue doing duct bank work for BED. We used to do a lot more duct bank work. I think they certainly have some contracts nowadays, a little bit going on here and there, but this is obviously a pretty big duct bank.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
There's Mark Nash.
That's Mark Nash. Yep. So,
Nice.
all right. Well, that's what I got. So I'll turn it back over to you, Matt, and everyone have a safe day out there.
Yeah, thank you. Great presentation this morning. If you watched in a group setting, please send me who watched it with you so we can really capture attendance. And then the ones that miss, we are going to find you and we were going to train you up on EEO. Let's have a safe day. Let's have a great day.
Yep. And thank you, Ben McKinney, for the presentation.
Yep. Thanks, Ben.